What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be making a full review for the Romancing Festival Byunei banner that brings Byunei in 4 different dragons. Byunei is a damage dealer with access to a support skill that deals damage and blocks damage for 1 hit. There is Genryu, that is a one and done very strong AoE farmer. Gwayne is a damage dealer for long fights, similar to Khalid and Silver, but a little weaker. Dorra is a farmer with heat and lightning damage, and Genryu Snowy is a wheel buffer with damage for overdrive. Well, let's start talking about Byunei. She is now defensive, but not so much. You can see the status with 105%. They look better than her summer style when you look on them. She only had 90%, now she has 105 for both. She does have some good agility with 113 and 120 intelligence. That's a very good combination. Love and charisma are just average, and it's inferior to her past style because that one is a real healer. Moving on. For passives, we have Tension Force 2, damage increases by 15%, and on the end of turn she gets 2 BP. The second one, Conviction, she starts the fight with 12 BP and gets 1 BP by the end of turn. So she starts with 12 and have access to 6 BP per turn. That is her selling point because she will then be capable of using high cost skills very often. The last passive is called Maximum Voltage, and for the start of a turn she grants herself a heat up that increases damage potential by 30% for the whole fight, and it stacks up to 5 times per battle. So in turn 5 she will have access to just 165 damage increase, so very nice, pretty high values, but it takes time to build up, and she has access to 6 BP per turn and starts the fight with 12. Moving on for skills, we have Purple Haze Coat. This is free and can only be used once per battle. It will buff Endurance, Agility, Intelligence, and Will, her main status, by up to 50% if you max level this, but it starts on 40%. You also give her defense up, allowing her to have 20% damage reduction for the whole fight, and gives her a heat up of 15%. I wanted to talk about this because this 20% damage reduction is her only way to decrease damage. We have other characters right now with 2 damage reduction passives, sometimes 30 plus 30, 30 plus 25, or something different. So she has high status, but has to rely on using this skill on turn 1 to even reduce damage further. And without it, she would take plenty of damage. It seems that these 4 different buffs helps her in the fights where you want to bring her. Well, if you want to bring Byunei, I think you also be bringing buffers. And especially those that buff Will, sometimes Endurance too. That means that she will get very high status to not take damage right on start, and she can wait more to get buffs from another source. That will help her on the start and allow her to reach her full potential without dying. And with those 15% extra, we reach 180% damage increase with Byunei. That's a pretty big value. The only bad thing is that you have to use this on turn 1, so she's locked. But by turn 2, she already has 18 BP. That's right. And you want to use something for utility. Skill number 2 is called R-Jet Blade. For 5 BP, you have a full AoE slash attack with the Power and 13 mod. That's not just for damage, and when the attack lands, she grants morale down medium to targets. That decreases their damage capabilities by 25%, lasts for 2 turns. Since she gets 12 VP in 2 turns, she can use this as much as she wants, but this may not be her main gameplay. The good thing is that this is much cheaper than the first alternative that was Joe. Joe has, in her latest style, morale down medium as well. Actually, the first one was dull, but she could not keep it up with her BP generation. This Joe gets 5 BP per turn, and she has Ice and Fire and Giant Squid, and B-Power attack with 8 BP cost, as you can see here. So we are trading power for lower cost, and to be honest, I prefer the lower cost, because in boss fights it's always better to save VP for something else, and that something else is skill number 3, Boreal Dragon Wind. This is a very nice skill. It's fast and single target with double S power and 48 mod. This case it also has blunt damage. The damage is not the important part. The important part is that it's fast and will grant All surviving allies damage block. They will block one hit, and that lasts for only one turn. So this can break some bosses, but this can also just help a little. It depends on the behavior of said boss. Well, there were bosses like Apollo that had a very powerful nuke on the start of their turns. Sometimes they will use weaker attacks, but the first hit was the strongest one. That means you will just negate that damage. There are bosses that have multiple weak attacks, so you will block the first hit but still take the other ones. That doesn't help so much. In those situations, it's better to bring someone that can heal your party so that you will just keep your HP close to high instead of just trying to block. Remember that this costs 12 BP, she can use this every 2 turns, but she will usually have to ignore skill number 2, our Jet Blade. She can use on, I don't know, turn 3 for example, and then just return to using Burial Dragon Wind, because that's kind of what you may want her to do. But, well, I don't think this is as important as something that we already have for quite some time. That is the shield from Empress. Empress has the full negation shield that will just ignore everything for 1 turn. So this is also fast, can only be used twice in battle. If the fight does not last for too long and you know exactly when to use the Imperial shield, this is still the best option. And, well, you also have access to Matriarch number 4, Evasion Shield. That is also amazing. Well, many people still use it to this day. You will heal and grant 1 evasion for 1 time. This is much cheaper, and just 5 EP. You could just bring those 3 characters together, but I don't know if that will be just so good right now, because they clash here and there. Well, in the last fight in attacks against Zagor, I did use Final Empress and Matriarch together. I don't think I need a 3rd character for this, so it depends if you are happy with what you already have, but I can say that depending on the right situation, Burial Dragon Wind can be very nice. But that depends if the boss uses the best attack on the first hit and it does not have multiple attacks. So a little more limited, but still pretty nice. If you want to use her as a morale down inflictor as well, that's still good. She's still better than Jo in most situations. The only thing that makes Jo better is that she can self-heal much better to survive, and in the case of Byunei, she does have access to 20% damage reduction, but that's just it. Well, we also have the summer version of Byunei that has this Sky Convalescence skill, that's 10 BP, and recover HP by a lot, should be probably around 1.8 thousand, and gives 2 EP to the party. She can use this twice, so you can bring this, and when you feel like the boss is gonna use multiple hit attacks, you can heal instead of applying the damage block. And because she gets 2 EP back herself, well, you're not spending that much. I do believe that this is the best inheritance right now for her. But if you have a party that builds a lot of overdrive, you could try Summer High Wind, because this skill here also applies attack down on overdrive that lasts for 2 turns. Attack down will decrease damage from enemies by 15%, so you can actually use it between the skill number 2, so that you have morale down medium, decreasing 25%, and then you can just have minus 15% from the attack down. That also works. And if you have this other version of Byunei with Trinity Summon, well, this costs 9 BP, but since she got 6, she can also try to debuff 3 different status on the same time. It's just that we already have other characters that can debuff many things, like the current Rock Bouquet, and even Matriarch with her Paean of Heartthrob. As an agility and dexterity debuff for Heaven's Breeze can now be used every single turn, so depending on the fight, if you need to debuff those 2 things, she can actually work super fine. From the first version of Byunei, you can now have access to Rising Earth Plus on turn 1, that should give you plenty of damage, and she will follow up with weaker versions of AoE. That will work for Final Island, for example, maybe work for events, but that's not exactly that important anyway. And besides that, we still have a Rodine for AoE agility debuff, or Wind Bloom for AoE Dexterity debuff. Well, in the end, Byunei is a very good style anyway, because Boreal Dragon Wind can be very good in the right situations. It may not work all the time, but when it works, it's gonna be very good. But if you already have Final Impress Shield and Matriarch Heal plus Evasion Shield, I can say that you are pretty set. You are just getting something that will be a little different and better in some situations, but worse in other ones. And you may not need a third character with some similar setup. Byunei is also a staff user. We already have plenty of different staff users for Remembrance. She may not feel like a very good investment there. She's more for hard challenges when you can take advantage of her full kit. Still, I think that the damage block is good enough to guarantee a triple S grade for Byunei. Byunei gets another style in the future. It should be close to December or something, and she has an interesting build. A skill that buffs Endurance, Will, and Charisma and heals the party. She has another skill that just buffs Agility by doing damage. And then there is also a passive that can recover HP of the party and give them BP. But this version of Byunei has a better synergy with the first summer style, because this one has this heal spell that will trigger a defense boost in the party with a passive that she has access to. This one here. During recovery action, gives defense up, increasing their resistance by 10% so that you can heal twice and get +10/+10 for the whole fight. So this is a character that has lots of utility and also can interchange inheritances. This other purple haste coat could be interesting as well, because this one gives it up if you want more damage instead of defense. And Boreal Dragon Wind is much better used here because you have better BP generation. But Byunei is a meta character in a way or another, and worth investments, just that you may still question if you need her right now. Okay, next character is Gwayne, and they did a very nice change to Gwayne. You can see the STR 111, Agility 116, they're not the top in the game, but they also give it very good Endurance and Will with 100%, so it's a very balanced status distribution. Passive number 1, Sky Tyrant. Damage increases by 30% at all times. Very nice. And when landing a weak attack, you have a 50% chance to trigger Dragon Roar. We will be talking about this later. Then we have Dragon Switch. That is like Action Switch, but more offensive. When you attacking with blunt attacks, you grant yourself an attack boost that increases damage by 15%, can stack and last for 3 turns, while also recovering 2 BP. This is the most important part because all of its attacks have blunt, but not all of them will have lightning. That will give you a defense boost, decreasing damage taken by 15%, lasts for 3 turns and stacks, and also recovers HP by around 200. Then the last passive is called High Battle Spirit. When you are landing a weak attack, you see that you need to land weak attacks with this character. You will grant yourself a heat up of medium effect that can stack up to 5 times per battle. And when you are attacked by an attack that will cause resist, he will also trigger defense up of medium effect to have a max of 5 stacks per battle. That will decrease damage taken by at least 40%. So that's a very nice kit, but it takes time to build. So, made for long fights. The good thing is that you will get 5 EP per turn most of the time. And then this can help you use some of the skills more often. And now you also have a chance to chase with Dragon Roar. But let's talk about skill number 1. Scale Attack is a free skill that has Blunt and Slash, so it will only trigger the Blunt part of Dragon Switch, still guaranteeing the 5 EP per turn. And it gives Guard Up Small for 2 turns, that it will decrease damage taken by 12%. Very nice, and you can actually cycle the skill pretty fine. Skill number 2, Thunderous Dragon Roar. And that's for 10 BP, you have a single target attack with Blunt and Lightning. Here you will trigger all effects from Dragon Switch. And before you attack, you grant yourself an attack boost that will increase damage by 20% on max level. I just noticed something. This is actually skill number 3. They just changed the order here on the website. So the damage will be increased before you even do the damage, but it should be entry level triple S power. That's what I can see from the calculations. So this is the attack that you get as a chase, and I'll talk more about that in a few. Then the skill number 2 is Rampage Claws, that is 10 BP, full AoE with Blunt and Slash, and it's critical against Human and Beast. It has S power. S power for 10 BP, it's pretty cheap. I believe they gave it S power because you are a martial artist, so you need the right formation to take full advantage of the power. And that will be Dragon Stance X or Hurricane. There's not that many options, but if you take full advantage, you're gonna get lots of damage. And you will trigger the plus 2 BP as well, so you have 5 BP on turn 2. What that means, well, we will talk about inheritances later. But how do you actually use Gwayne in a boss fight? You open with skill number 3, Thunderous Dragon Roar, and that will give you attack boost. Right here, you already have 50% chance to chase if you are attacking a weak target. Again, you have to use Gwayne against weak targets. If you trigger the chase attacks, you get all effects from Dragon Switch. You already got it first by using the skill, but if you get double hit, that means you got double times. Then on turn 2, you're gonna use Scale Attack. That will give you Guard Up to protect a little, and will give you 5 BP. On turn 3, you can get back to Thunderous Dragon Roar. That means that on every hit, you have a chance to chase and give lots of different effects to the character to stack damage and deal more in time. I don't think that Gwayne beats Silver or even Khalid. Let's talk about Silver first. Silver has 2 chase attacks, and in her case, she has many different cycles because she has access to Cold, Lightning, Blunt, and even Slash. And double chases with B power can be similar to double S power. She has a guarantee of getting similar damage to Gwayne. Gwayne has to rely on RNG to reach the power of Silver. And the other comparison will be Khalid. Khalid was released recently, and he also has a very similar setup with Action Switch. Let's call it Tornado Switch in his version, but it's just similar. And he attacks 2 times with Lightning Cross and can keep this up to eventually reach similar potential. But if you miss it out on Khalid, it's just easy to replace with Gwayne. And for Blunt, it's just much easier to use Leon most of the time, and there are many other damage dealers as well. So Gwayne has a soft spot for Lightning and on Remembrance, a very strong damage dealer for Remembrance that will not take too much damage once he gets super ready. Okay, now let's move and talk about inheritance. If you have the first Gwayne, you can inherit Lightning Orb instead of using skill number 1. Why? Because this will guarantee that you will trigger all the effects from the Action Switch, from attack boost and defense boost, and you still have the chances of getting the chase attack to get even further. Then from the UDX Gwayne, this has something pretty amazing. Pouring Thunder now can be amplified. This is a skill that attacks twice, just like Khalid's. First, it's a full AoE attack, and then after that is a single target attack with Blunt and Lightning. That means that you're gonna trigger all the effects twice. You are going to get 7 BP in that turn. So you can actually just use Pouring Thunder Plus instead, because you're just gonna get the attack boost anyway from the Dragon Switch attack. 2 times a power, it's equal to triple S actually, but you will just stack more of everything by spending 10 but getting back 7. See, it's even better to use Pouring Thunder, but you don't lose much by using the skill that comes with this Gwayne as well. And there's also this Bracket Lightning that has Blunt and Lightning, but it's just a full AoE attack that's pretty weak. It's much better to inherit either Lightning Orb or Pouring Thunder Plus if you have it. So this gives the full potential of Gwayne, a character that has to build up to reach the full potential, but eventually becomes super strong. I have to say that, well, I don't know if it beats Khalid. If you have the inheritance, I think Gwayne gets a little better. I still think that Silver is better, and she is a triple S grade character. I'll be giving Gwayne an SS+, and if you think he deserves better than this, please see here on the comments, and I will think about, because we are pretty close to update the tier list. And the next dragon is Dorra. Dorra got buffed to very high values for agility and STR. I think it's the highest combination right now. We have 90% endurance, 75% will, but you will not be using Dorra besides farming, I can assure you, unless you don't have anything else to use or remembrance. First passive is called Repose Lesson 4. On the end of a turn, if no damage taken, you recover 4 BP. That's super nice for farming because you're not going to take damage. For passives, the first one is called a Repose Lesson 4. On the end of a turn, if no damage is taken, it will recover 4 BP. The second one, Annihilator. Damage increases at all time by 30%, and all ranged or ranged attacks will increase by 15%. Well, all of the attacks are ranged or all range, so you have 45% at all times, and then Great Battle Tension increases by another 30, reaching a total of 75%, and also starts the fight with 11 BP. Okay, so skill number 1 is Red Thunderbolt. It's a column attack that deals power 15 mod for heat and lightning. It's weak, but it's also cheap. Now, skill number 2 is actually Flame Thunder Roar. This is a column attack with heat and lightning and has double S power. It's also fast, so it will be very easy to use when farming. And because of a 9 BP cost and a very powerful damage, this will be useful for solo farming in events, but also on story mode. In events, you can use any formation that Dorra just works, like the Rainbow Rangers one, placing Dorra on the agility position, because Dorra will get 18 BP in 2 turns, because you are not gonna take damage. But if you wanna bring Dorra for farming in story mode, you can use the Dragon's Stance X formation, and then you will be able to attack 3 times in a row. And it's fast, so no one will interfere and Dorra will just easily farm stages where you have enemies aligned in a column. The good thing is that Heat and Lightning is pretty special, and we just got Gloria that can hit enemies in a column with lightning, but her power is only S. Dorra has higher. If you do not want to use a column attack, you can also use a full AoE one with Draconic Roar. This is an 8 power with 28 mod with the same heat and lightning damage. And just like the other attack, you can use Dragon's Stance X for story farming and easily solo farm. I don't think you'll be able to solo farm on events though. So for events, column attack will work. For story, either will work. So those 2 skills are the selling point of Dorra. Now, talking about inheritance, this Dorra really does not need any, and I will explain why. Well, we have Doom Ray. This is a roll attack that has a power and 30 mod, but this one gives recoil damage, so you will lose the plus 4 EP on the end of a turn. And the power is just too close to the full AoE attack, so why use it? And then we have a Thunder Blow that has S power, it's stronger. But then you will not be capable of using AoE attack by turn 2. So you have to use the column attack. That means that the cycle will be broken. Unless you want to use it for something like Final Island. But then again, you are going to take damage and that reduces the score, and you will also not trigger the BP passive. Like I said, Dorra just works as it is. Just use either the column attack or the full AoE one. And Dorra is a very strong farmer, just like Talon, but Talon needed Enya to work and use 3 AoE attacks with A power. Dorra can do it by itself with the right formation, so it's even better. But still, because Dorra is limited, I will be giving an SS plus grade, but I really like the design of the character, and it will just work in farming scenarios. The next dragon is Genryu, but Joe version of it. That has both fire and water attacks, right? We have good status, 117 SDR, 120 just like Dorra's. And then a little higher will, but this Genryu, just like Dorra, will not be used on boss fights. First of all, we have Strengthened Energy 3, that increases damage at all times by 10% and starts the fight with 13 BP. Well, they changed this on JP is just 4 BP without the damage increase. Then we have Offensive Union 3 that increases damage by 15% to Genryu and now other allies in the party. That's nice because you can just bring Genryu to Fido Island, for example, to increase damage if you are lacking just a few. And then Great Weak Tension increases damage at all times by 30% and further increases if you are landing a weak attack by 15. So what do you have in the end? You have 70% damage increase. Nothing stellar, but good enough for the purpose of this dragon. First skill is called La Niña. It's just like El Niño from Joe, but here it's a free skill with full AoE attack, heat and cold damage. Well, it's not gonna do much, but it's just something that you can use as an extra for cycling, so I'll explain later. Skill number 2, Blazing Shots. This is a 6 BP skill that hits between 2 to 4 times, with E power and blunt and heat damage. Well, different elements this time, right? By itself, if you hit 3 times, you're gonna get something like entry level of triple S power. So, for the cost, it's nice, but again, you're not gonna use Genryu for boss fights. This is something for raids, for example, because you can leave the character fully attacking on auto. And, well, it doesn't have damage reduction passive, it's gonna be dead very fast. And then the third one is called Ice Fire Sublimation Roar. This is a fast skill that hits all enemies with heat and cold. Nice. But can only be used once because of a double S power. That's right. This is a very powerful skill, but it should also be said that we have full AoE attacks with double S power. Yes, and I can just talk about it. Antonius. Antonius has Dual Whirlwind Plus, and Antonius can even use this on turn 1. Look on this, double S power, right? And he can use as much as he wants. So I don't know why they made this skill as something that you can only use once. I don't think it matters too much because you're only gonna use this once anyway, because you're not gonna get the BP to use it again. So maybe that's just a way to make it better than JP that was only S power. I guess that's the reason. So what do you do with Genryu as it is? You open and then use Ice Fire Sublimation Roar, you're gonna kill all the enemies. And then you still have a skill to help out your second damage dealer if he needs help to kill the second wave. Well, it may work in some events. For story farming, it's not good enough because it's just one strong attack and then weaker attacks that goes after. It means that Genryu needs to be paired up with someone all the time. It's not a solo farmer, it's a character that has access to strong attacks, but will always need to be paired with someone else. And inheritances don't make much sense with this Genryu. Well, you do have a very strong attack that is called Shilling Conflagration. This is a very, very powerful 4S attack that's on the end of the calculation. That has heat and cold damage, but this is 15 BP. That means that you can only use this on turn 2. So in an event, you will use someone else to kill the first wave and then use this single target attack against the boss. That can work, but still pretty limited, I guess. They should probably amplify the skill, and even if just reduce the BP cost to 12, that would still make the character much better. Look, the AoE attack gives guard up, but the character is not defensive, so this inheritance is bad. There is Ice Fire Blast that you can inherit and use it, well, as an option after Ice Fire Sublimation Roar, but you will not have BP for that as well, so why? And the A style has Feral Palms that, well, it's just not strong for the current slash damage. So this Genryu does not benefit from any inheritance besides the Shilling Conflagration, in my opinion. And even then, this is locked into turn 2, that means that you will hardly use it. So Genryu is pretty simple. It's a one and done character with just one strong attack and nothing else. Sadly, this Genryu will receive an SS- grade by just being too simple and not a big and good investment. Now, the last dragon is Genryu Snowy, the dragon for Bertrand. And this one is better because it can be used in different situations. Look, they give a very low endurance, but a very good will. Agility and STR are not that great because this dragon was not made for damage, although it can work. but you have 100% love. That will make it very good for healing. And it makes sense. Let's talk about other stuff. First passive is called White String. When attacked, damage will be reduced by 25%. Nice. The first dragon with a damage reduction passive on turn 1. And then on the end of a turn, you get OD Gouge by 15 points. And if you use an attack on Overdrive, you will trigger Sublimation Twister, but we'll talk about that later. We also have High Protect Tension. Decreases damage taken by 30% and increases damage potential by 20. So nice, we have 2 damage reduction passives, right? Then Great Overtension. Damage increases at all times by 30%, and then you get 45 on combos, 60% on Overdrive. So at all times, you will have 50% damage increase. That's okay. And then on combo, you have 65, and on Overdrive, you're gonna get 80%. I think it's good enough for a character that was not meant to be a damage dealer. Skill number 1 is called Arctic Ripple. For 2 BP, you have a full AoE attack that has the power and cold damage, and it will recover all surviving allies' HP by around 250. That's right, because of such a high glove. So, well, another character that can use very small healings. Yeah, but we have more than this. Skill number 2 is Droplet, and this is a spell. You're gonna need a martial artist weapon with water element to heal the highest value. Not that you will need it that much, but just an observation. It has the power and uses 1 LP. All the healing will be enough to get someone from 0 to close to max, and it also gives Guard Up Medium, decreasing damage taken by 25% for 2 turns. It's nice because when you revive someone, it loses all buffs that it had applied, so the defense increased will help survive. Then skill number 3, Sublimation Twister. For 10 DP, you have this single target attack with heat and cold. Before you even attack, you're gonna get 20% damage increase with attack boost that lasts for 2 turns and can stack, and then you will launch a triple S attack. So it may feel like a high-end triple S power attack. And if you are activating this on Overdrive, you will get a free, very small heal, and that will be around 250. And will also buff all surviving allies will by 30% on max level. So we have plenty of effects here, right? And this is also the same skill that you will get when you are attacking on Overdrive. So if you are saving VP and you reach it Overdrive and you use Sublimation Twister, you're gonna get it double times. There's just one thing that will be inferior. The damage, because it will be used on rank 1, and the wheel buff, it will be 25% instead of 30. So 55% wheel buff on Overdrive, you're gonna heal twice for around 500 healings, and you're going to attack twice for some very okay damage. Yeah, that's right, this is the main gameplay of this Snowy, to stay there healing so that you save VP, and when he reaches Overdrive, he uses Sublimation Twister. He will reach Overdrive in 2 or 3 turns depending on the squad that you are using, and he has very good synergy with time by buffing Endurance Wheel and giving OD to the party. But that's not just it. If you have this other version of Snowy, you can inherit Circulating Hail, and this is actually pretty nice because this it's a full AoE attack with 8 power, okay, and it buffs 4 different status. STR, Agility, means that it works super well for martial artists and all STR-based attackers. Also Endurance and Will, and those values by up to 40% on max level. And it will also recover HP by, I think, 1.4k. That's right, with that much love. So if you inherit this, you can open the fight, use Arctic Ripple, and then Sublimation Twister, but when you think that you need to, well, heal everyone more, you are going to use Circulating Hail. But the skill also uses 2 LP, that means that you won't have to keep using Droplet, but it's a different mechanic and may work for many people. Now, the first Snowy has Northern Trail. This one gives defense boost, decreasing damage to the party by 25%. This stacks, but well, we already have better versions of defense boost, especially from Christmas and Press. She also gives 25% damage decrease, but in her case, the skill lasts for 4 turns, so I don't think this is just that good. And the new HP heal effect is much better. That means that in the end, the only inheritance that makes sense is Circulating Hail or Glowing Heart, because this one cleanses everyone from ailments if you do not have anyone else that can do this. But with the advent of the Witch's Daughter, well, I don't think you are going to need this if you pair them up. Now, there is another reason to summon for this Snowy, and that one is to do something else. Get Sublimation Twister back inherited into this second version of Snowy. And why? Because the second version of Snowy already has Circulating Hail. But besides, it also has a 50% chance to buff the will of your party by 20%. So we use this as a secondary will buffer sometimes, and it just worked. Especially when you needed a better damage reduction than Halloween Princess White Rose in the past. So now when you are on overdrive, you will use the Sublimation Twister instead of Circulating Hail. And you will keep the 2 extra effects because you are on overdrive. Those will still work. You just lose the second hit from the chase that belongs to the passive. So if you need more healings, use the latest version of Snowy. If you need more wheel buffs, use the second version of Snowy. That's what you want from the character. Oh, well, by that, I think that this Genryu is good enough, but it's not a better buffer. It's more situational. And in the next update, Snowy will receive a downgrade because we have better and more reliable wheel buffers now because of Melissa. But it still works as a secondary one depending on the situations. So the grade will still be SS+, but it's a more unique and useful character than the other dragons. With all that said, let's get back to the banner image. This is better worth summoning for, in my opinion, yes. Because here we have 5% drop rates and all character that drops will be from the banner. There's no off banner here, so I may say it's worth to pull at least a little till you get something. Like, till you get at least 2 of the characters, so that you have very low chance of getting a duplicate. Is it really worth to pity for Byunei? It depends. If you don't have a secondary shield applier, like I said, Empress and Matriarch, then I may say that it's worth. If you do have, then it's your decision, your call. The next Byunei will probably be released by December or something, and then you have reruns of this Byunei and the summer Byunei, and you can decide to wait a little more to get the full potential of the character. About the dragons, Dorra is really strong as a farmer, but also skippable, since we can farm with too many characters, to be honest. Gwayne is a good replacement for those without silver and without Khalid. And Snowy works well, but if you already have Matriarch and Melissa with wheel buffs, you will just be ready. You don't need this Snowy. And for last, the Genryu is just very bad. So, summon if you want, but you don't need to go do a pity. Decide upon yourself. You want to wait 1 week, you can also wait to see what's coming. And for final, this banner will receive a silver award. But that's my opinion. What is yours? Please see here on the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you still haven't, and if you want to support the channel, there are links on the description. I hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.